Okay, well, let's see how this works. Well, just trying to get things turned around here so we're actually looking at you. And welcome, everybody. Okay, here we are. And yes, this is a work in progress. Of course, we forgot to shut the office door, I think. Yeah, we did. So we will be right back. Not exactly going very far. Just don't need that open. Okay. Well, this is a new one for me, so it's going to be a little bit sketchy at best. But I've been asked a lot of times for a long time to go live with this. So tonight is the first time I'm going live. Okay. I should be I'm live now, so we'll see we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens as far as when everything becomes viable. Something I do want to get straight right off the bat, and some of you will catch this, some of you won't. Okay, when you get back to it, that's great. But I don't do any editing afterwards because, frankly, I don't see the point. If you ever run into me in person, you'll find I talk exactly the same way. I just don't sit still quite so much. But what I'm looking at here with this particular channel, haven't decided on a name for it. So if you come up with a name that you think would do well, because just advertising I'm going live obviously isn't going to be as effective as some things. The one very critical factor here, I have always operated best by actually looking at things, by looking at the chat room and answering questions directly. In this case, from literally any topic. If I don't have the answer, you can bet I'll tell you I don't know the answer. Okay, but I will point you in the right direction. Now, what I'm trying to do is figure out how to actually get things moving so I can watch it. Like I said, this is going to be a bit sketchy for the first couple of weeks I do this. But I was talking to somebody, what I'm aiming at, one of the big things I'm aiming at is helping people understand that, yes, we do deal with aliens, with Terran stuff, with what's going on with the world. But I'm talking about how to change your life for the better. This is using tried and tested methods that I know work, because the tools that I offer are literally, like I've been doing on my YouTube channel for the longest time. The tools I talk about, the philosophies of life I live with, are literally the ones that I personally use. This is why I call myself a spiritual guide. Okay, because the way I figure it, if I'm going to tell you these methods work, if they apply to me, I should be using them. What I haven't figured out is the entire marketing system yet, so working on that. And Chad Smith, welcome to the chat room. You are actually the first one to join the group. So we will now see how things go. For the next 2 hours, I'm going to be here. I was just about to say, because a lot of the people that I know are on the other side of the world, I've already decided I was looking for more than one day, right? But finding one that fits my schedule is kind of tricky. So I got looking at it, and starting next Saturday, or this coming Saturday, whatever you want to call it, let's find out what date that is, just to be specific. I will be posting about this later. But yeah, next Saturday will be the 16th. I'm looking at going live at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. For those of you over in England, because that was literally where I had the one request from as to when I was going to go live so they could catch it. What I ended up with was telling them I would arrange it so that the people on the other side of the planet had a shot. Well, at at 9 a.m. my time here will be about 5 p.m. over in England. And we have Anastasia joining us. And greetings, Anastasia. Remember, if you've got questions, I don't care, or more to the point, when you have questions, it doesn't matter to me what topic. Okay. If I've got an answer, I'll give you as much of an answer as I can. If I don't, I'll point blank tell you. But when you're trying to put a question in, please write it in caps. Because unlike when I'm on other shows, other people do all of this. And technology and I have had an argument for a very long time. Okay, I don't get along all that well with it. But one of the critical factors that I do desire people to realize is that whether we are talking humans or any other race, okay, and bear in mind, humans are black, yellow, red, white, doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what orientation you are, what religious belief, what political belief you have, you're all, well, the majority of you. I know a few of you that are hybrids, but that's beside the point. And no, I'm not going to be telling anybody who I know. Okay, I don't release names except for mine. I've done so in one case, okay, and only one functional case, because I had direct permission to do so. But I don't just turn around and let people know, okay, and tell people the names that I've connected with, because I just don't believe in it. And Nightmare, welcome. The answer to that, Anastasia has just asked, Keith, are you also a medium? The answer is, YJ, we missed you. Miss seeing you come in. This is going to be fun trying to track this. I got to figure out how to get that over here. I've got 2 monitors, but let's get back to the first question. Anastasia, yes, the reality is I am a medium. I have been since I was born. So I mean, it's always been an entertaining situation. I have yet to find a topic that I don't delve into in the metaphysical field. The only ones I don't delve into are, I don't read tea leaves or palmistry over the video for obvious reasons. At least I think they're obvious. And other than that, the couple of topics that I know people are going to ask. Greetings, Angels Rife. Some people are going to bring up these neat little topics. I do not discuss Terran politics or adult-only conversations on this during this time. Okay, there are way too many problems that can come up with it. But I do desire everybody to realize that no matter where you come from, no matter how you got there, we are all at the same point. We're right here, right now, and this is the only time anybody can do anything. Okay, I'm still trying. The reason I keep looking over here is I've got a monitor right here. I've actually got 2 more monitors here. And as soon as I can upgrade, I will be putting a 3rd monitor, or in this case, a 4th one, over on this side of my computer. That way I can get a full view of what's going on. But what I'm trying to find is where I'm actually running live, so I can see what you're seeing as well. The thing that I have to stress, okay, one of the biggest topics, I'm waiting for somebody to come online, and I've just got to remember who it was. I got asked a question the other day about the significance of the different colors of orbs that are out there. And we will be getting to that at some time during this broadcast. Okay, because I do have the information sitting right with me. I forgot to write down who asked. But the one thing that I do have to point out is that, I will do my best to catch up. Okay, YJ Overlander has asked, she's wondering what my gut feeling is on Elon Musk. Well, Elon Musk, now, you got to understand, I do not do any research. I don't look into these people. So when we're talking gut feeling, that's literally what we have to deal with. Okay, Elon Musk quite frankly, he absolutely has a phenomenal head on his shoulders. I do question some of what he's looking at, of the way he's operating, but I do feel, are his intentions good? Yes. However, I'm also a firm believer that he puts what kind of a financial backing that can actually provide him personally, which there's nothing wrong with that. Providing people do not walk on other people to get there. The reason I keep leaning forward, by the way, is because I cannot read the questions here very well on this screen. That's why I'm trying to find it over here. Okay. Now, the nice part about all of this, like Elon's got a good head on his shoulders. There's a lot of people out there with really good heads. But I like some of the posts that I've seen. Why concentrate so much on getting to Mars when our own planet is still messed up? Okay. And this is something that, and I wonder, yeah, I should do this. Considering I didn't figure out how to post it, I'm going to post something here that I did figure out how to do. I would take that. This thing here. Let's see if that worked. Oh, too big. So I guess we can't do that. I was going to put the link to, because I haven't figured out how yet. Okay. I have not figured out how to get the, let's try English. Stumbled over that one badly. I've not figured out how to get the whole issue of this buy me a coffee thing. Okay. I did get an account there. I just don't know how to get it on here yet, which is something I've got to look into. Okay. But that being said, I'm still looking over here trying to figure this out. Didn't give myself quite enough time to get up and running. One of the biggest things that, now when we talk, I'm going to go back to this thing about the medium work. People quite often are going, does anybody have a message? Like, I get calls where somebody will say, I want to talk to anybody. Does anybody want to talk to me? We have to understand where it comes to medium work. Okay, where it comes to talking to people that passed on. The biggest thing about it is that people that have passed on may not have anything directly that they want to talk about, because you got to remember, once they pass away, their connection to the material world is tenuous at best. Okay, I wish I knew where this was, but what the heck. So let's see what happens if I do this over on the other video. Now, I do agree with what do you got here. Okay, YJ Overlander has mentioned that she thinks he's jumping in on controversial things. Now, here's the neat thing, and I do agree, he is, and most people do. Most people have their own ideas. Okay. The answer to your question there, Nightmare, is no. Nightmare asked if there are any mods in the group. I've got no backup, so I'm trying to do this on my own, which, needless to say, is going to be a work in progress. Okay, I'm not entirely certain how that's going to work. Don't even know how to go about setting up the idea of having a mod in to keep an eye on things. Okay, but this is one of the challenges of being technologically challenged to start with. The neat part about it from my end is I figure I'm doing functionally well at this point, as in coming. Try that again. I'm doing functionally well, striving to get things moving at all. I was hoping to be a little bit more sufficient with it, but what the heck. Well, thank you very much, Nightmare. I appreciate that. Nightmare's just volunteered a little piece of information. She goes, everyone go to the about section to buy Keith to buy him a coffee, which I appreciate that. I managed to get that in there. I just don't know how to get it up here. Okay, and I'm working on that. Things are going to be interesting. Now, something about the whole issue, and I know a lot of the people that are likely to join me here first, many of you have listened in on Spaced Out Radio with the ET connection. And yes, I will quite happily deal with that. The one thing that we have to realize is that no matter what race we're talking about, they are all essentially the same as people, as humans. Everyone, they've all got essentially the same outlook, as it were. Okay. Basically the same problems. If they were perfect, they would not be at war in certain areas. Okay, but we can safely say, and going to interrupt myself here. Welcome, Marty. Marty has just shown up online here. I'm going to have fun trying to find these, and I've got to figure out how to do that a little bit more effective. But that being said, I will simply have to work through it and find out how to get there. Okay, anyway, these different races are all essentially the same. And would you look at that? Found out where it is. Now I just got to make sure I shut it down so it doesn't actually confuse me. Where it is. There we are. What do we got? So it doesn't actually confuse me. And there we are. Now I don't have to listen to myself talk. Well, I guess technically I do. And Philip, how are you? Things are going to be very hectic for the next little while for me while I try and figure this out. Okay. The other thing, because I know one thing, I'm fully expecting it. People keep talking about something, something they keep calling trolls, which I'm sure will end up in here, but frankly, I half the time don't recognize them. Okay. I haven't quite figured out what they are, in all fairness. But with regards to where I'm trying to go with this, is there's a lot of questions that we only get when I'm on the ET connection. Many people have questions that we only have 15 seconds, so to speak, to give an answer to. Now, I'm not going to. The one thing I will caution people on, as much as I will certainly explain, answer the questions as best I can, I will have to make sure that I don't get caught up in the idea of getting too lost in one person's questions. I'm looking at these questions that are coming up, and I know this is going to get faster. And welcome poetically. What are we looking at here? Yeah, right now we have 9 people, which is like, what, 4? That's like twice what we had when it came on a couple of days ago. And I'm fully intending for this to go a lot bigger. Sooner or later, I will have to figure out how to get somebody to work as a mod to catch questions for me, because if this thing moves the way I've seen some live feeds move, trying to track them is almost impossible. Which is why when I look at the way some people handle them, I'm like, okay, you're tracking these and following them, and that's great. The 3 areas I'm really looking at here are, 1, how to get your life back in control. Now, if you've been following my YouTube channel up till now, you know of the journey. Okay, and that is covering that in detail. The second area, and these are all equally important, by the way. The second area will be the alien races, UFOs, alien technologies. And the third section will be writing. Okay. In case you hadn't noticed, this is my gaming shirt. Okay. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons now since 1976. Okay. What it says below this shirt, and since you don't really need to see the rest of my abdomen, what it says below this shirt is good intentions, questionable methods. The biggest reason I don't go. Oh, okay. Yeah, YJ has just said one person's good question is another person's troll. Subjective reality is certainly a maze of interesting interactions. And with that in mind, I appreciate that, YJ, because what happens there, I'm not here to prove to anybody what I've been through. But maybe with what I've been through, Okay, people can get an idea of things that have gone through in their life that they're not completely on their own. A short synopsis is I died the day I was born. I ended up dealing with because of a second death at 20 months old, I was diagnosed epileptic and mentally retarded. At 5 years old, I walked out of the morgue. Oh, forgot one step. After being diagnosed mentally retarded, I got turned over to the MyLab, the military laboratories. Then at 5 years old, I walked out of the morgue. Okay. And life just got right carried away. At 10 years old, I started dealing publicly with questions about social life, about people's social life, or about where their career was going. One of the biggest questions I always run into, one of the biggest. Thank you very much, Nightmare. Nightmare has just asked the same thing I did right at the beginning, which you may not have been here for. When you've got questions, absolutely put them all in all caps. They're easier to find. Many people look at all caps as I'm yelling at you. Okay, and I don't use all caps except in this case because then I can find them. The nice part about this is I'm looking at this going, it doesn't matter who you are, questions have to be answered. And the odds are that if you have a question, somebody else that's listening in or going to be listening in is going to have the same question. Now, I get quite often people will phone me because I work on a psychic line as well. Okay. People will phone me on the line and ask a really silly question to me. I'm having financial difficulties. What should I do? And my first thought is, if you're having financial difficulties, the best thing to do is talk to a financial advisor that is free. The best place to find those happens to be in your own local bank. That's what they're paid for. Okay, and they don't charge an extra amount for it. However, with that in mind, I will be offering tips that I personally use to change the energy in my house. I was looking at, and if you look behind me, this is why I don't use a backdrop. Some people put a back screen up so that you can't see what's behind them. You just see what they want you to see. In my eyes, this is me. Okay, so the clutter you see behind me, that's what I'm working on clearing out. Now, I used to have a bunch of binders and what have you up on this shelf. They're gone, as you can see. They've been moved and put away. Most of that was old income tax files. But when you're looking at running a house, whether we're talking about a house, a business, a starship, they all operate the same way, just different buttons. Okay. And what I mean there, what I mean there is when you're looking at getting your house and your home and your business running, it all works exactly the same way. Thank you very much, Philip. Philip, you guys are great. I come out with this idea that I'm completely behind the 8 ball where it comes to technology. And here you guys are stepping up and just keeping an eye open for problem children, and giving me pointers, which I really appreciate that. This is why I say when you're talking about striving to do something new, okay, talk to somebody that has done it successfully. Okay, now I can tell you how to make money work. I can tell you how to feng shui your entire home without a problem. Feng shui is a real great thing. If you look at Eastern philosophy, it works like an absolute charm. The problem with it compared to Western is Eastern philosophy will tell you set things up to the north door or the south window or whatever. A lot of really good books. It works beautifully in Eastern society because the culture is built with it. In Western society, however, it's not quite the same way. Okay, because society is built where virtually every house is different. Thank you so much, Marty. Quite frankly, I do agree with you. That does seem to be real handy. Marty's just said, he says, I can already see Nightmare as your mod. And to that end, I'm going to have to, it depends ultimately on Nightmare. But what I'm going to have to look at is when that all comes about, I'll have to talk to the individual to find out exactly how to go about setting that up and making it work. Something I should point out, and I have pointed it out in other videos. Okay. I've gone to, okay. Philip, and for everybody listening, you have questions about something. Philip, absolutely. Put the question into the chat room, in all caps, and I will answer what I can. The first one I will answer is yes, I have seen him. Well, him or her. I don't honestly know which. Okay, but I do know I have seen him, so I do know what you're referring to. In all fairness, I only live like 5 minutes away from Okanagan Lake. Okay. So absolutely put your question in. To me, it doesn't matter what topic we're talking about. Okay. Virtually anything I'm quite willing to talk about. Okay. Or to answer questions on. Like I said, if I've got the answers, I will more than happily share them with you. This idea that people have that, I've listened to some people on interviews. I've listened to some really big names. Somebody will ask a question and the person being interviewed will go, well, you'll have to buy my book to get that answer. And, the reality is this. Now, I'm going to sidetrack slightly. This little sign here, if you take a look at that, I keep that handy so that I can so it's right ready for me. This has to do with financial fluidity. Okay, financial prosperity. I keep that right handy. Now, do I have a lot of books that I do sell? Absolutely. But if you've got a question, absolutely ask me. And I will be more than happy to fill you in. It will not be a question of, buy my book if you really want the information. I just don't agree with that. If I'm going to come on here live and tell you I'm going to be honest with you, well, frankly, that's the way it's going to be. I was asked one day if I was in this for money, and I went, no, I'm not going to turn money down. Don't get me wrong, because ideally, there's two major things I'm looking at. Oh, not a problem there, Philip. Philip's just saying that he's trying to catch up. He's still a couple of minutes behind us. I've listened to people that will go, you want the information, here's a book. Well, here's the neat thing. There's a staggering amount of information. This particular book, some of you have seen it. Okay, this has to do, obviously, races of the world. The reason I put it that way is because this book and any book that I've got is available at the bottom of the videos that I've got. It will tell you where it is, how much it is. I do take PayPal. It goes through that. I was asked one day why I'm not in it for the money. Well, the reality is materialism is overstated. I used to be a pack rat. Okay. I would have every inch covered. Like where you see the models standing up and the figures that are standing up on this shelf up behind me. I used to have that full all the way to the roof with boxes and paperwork and what have you. I've gotten rid of it. Okay. Oh, okay. Perfect. Nightmare has asked, that's the book I was about to question about. Feel free to type it in and I will do my best to get to it. Okay. Because from my end, I do feel you all have questions that are really important to you. And frankly, they're important to me. The fact I can offer answers is something I grew up with not having the ability to get answers to. My father on his deathbed apologized for that. And what he did is he itemized all the things I went through. The walking out of the morgue, the MyLab experiences, the alien abductions, the metaphysical interactions. He said, all of those, even my past life memories, he says they are all absolutely real. Okay. The nice little part. Yeah, well, here's the thing. Okay. And what have I got here? Yeah. Overlander YJ is just, she goes, I've seen the Ogopogo. It surfaced behind my wife, looked at her, and we told her to turn around. She refused. It was about 10 meters behind her. Okay, and yeah, the head would be, I will tell you this. You said that the head was about the size of a big dog, right? Kind of shaped that way. You were looking at a young Ogopogo. I will tell you, in my opinion, there is more. We are not talking about one creature. We are talking about one creature that shows up periodically. They show up one at a time. Unlike pods of whales that show up in groups with the Ogopogo, and very much like the Loch Ness Monster. They only show up periodically, but they stay down underwater a lot longer. Okay, is the Ogopogo a real critter? Yeah, absolutely. From my standpoint, I have no question. Okay, I've seen it. No, in this case, I did not actually pet it. I did not get to hang on to it like I did with the Sasquatch. Okay, but I have seen the thing, and from what I saw, there is no question what Ogopogo is. Ogopogo, in my opinion, and I don't have any scientific backing for it, so we just have to go with it, is a long-necked plesiosaur. Should have been dead about 120 million years ago. Clearly not. Okay, I'd be inclined to say that Loch Ness is probably a short neck. Okay, is probably a short neck plesiosaur, or it may be, gauging by the length of the nose on the Loch Ness. It may well be an elasmosaur. Again, these are dinosaurs that should have been extinct. Okay, that doesn't entirely surprise me. Now, in all fairness, YJ's mentioned she saw one in Mirror Lake. Now, the reality is, I think Mirror Lake is around me, but I have no idea. I barely leave my house anymore. Okay, I mean, for me, it was a great thing. I've been a recluse for 10 years now. Okay, so overall, from my end, this whole idea of getting out and going for drives or going for hikes out in the bush, I don't have it with me. I'll have to remember to bring that. Maybe I'll get it when I take a break here. I do not have scheduled breaks. Okay, so I'm looking at, probably, depending on how things go, I may have to, take a break sort of at the top of the hour sort of thing, depending on whether I run out of liquid here. And no, this is not vodka. I used to drink that an awful lot, but not anymore. In all fairness, I drink a whole lot less. Yeah, for me, it boils down to, I always, okay, can we try one thought at a time? What do you think? And like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, when this is done, I don't go back through and change it. I don't go and edit any of it. So the hiccups I run into are absolutely what I'm going to be dealing with. But for me, it's a question of, so many people seem to be lost. And what's happened is society right now is going down a very dark path, because we have spent so much time becoming more and more reliant on technology and less reliant on communicating with each other. I got a kick out of a post I saw on Facebook the other day, right? Which might have been today, by the way. But the post was, they said, I find it fascinating to realize that the machines are now asking us to prove that we are not machines. Okay. Which is funny, but everybody talks about this idea of AI and the computers getting stronger. Well, let us hope they don't actually develop true AI. And so I'm turning problem solving over to them. Okay. Oh, okay. Angel's Rife has what she's asked is, Keith, this may be a silly question, but why do the Greys have a controller? Controller is probably the wrong word, but what it is the short Greys are your scientists. Now you've got three types of scientists. You've got the massive majority that are strictly scientists. They're looking for information. A lot of them are tied to the hybridization program. You've got the rare ones that will help. They'll pull somebody aside that is hurt, a human aside that is hurt. And without asking about it, they will simply put the person back together. They'll modify their system, cure illnesses. I have no functional idea to tell you how they determine it, because it's done on a base-by-base issue by individual Greys. Then you've got the Greys and these are even rarer than the first set, that are literally, they're profiteers. They are still scientists, but they will sell their information to anybody. The controllers are the ones that determine we need research done on this bracket. And they will assign the scientists that are best suited for that particular topic, and tell them, you're dealing with this in this sector. Go to this planet and find out this information. Controller may be the wrong word for it. It may be more appropriate to call them managers. Okay, because what they do is they simply keep things running smoothly, but they don't differentiate. They do not put more weight behind one or the other, behind one type of research to the next, because all research is important, even the tiny little things, and so that's why they've got the controllers, as it were. Virtually every society that is a member of the Galactic Consortium they have their own guidance, they have their own guidelines, they have their own issues that they're dealing with. Okay. But one thing they have in common is there's not a one of them that is permitted to actually come in and take over Earth. People keep worrying about, they're talking about, the aliens are going to invade. Well, let's face it, they're not. If they were, the fight would be over way before anybody knew it was happening. But here's the funny part about it. People are so afraid of the aliens, and they go, well, why don't they show themselves en masse? Well, aliens are afraid of humans as well, which may sound weird. Okay. The neat little part about all of this is every one of these races, I've got friends in multiple different races. And in all fairness, I get along better. People have asked me, do I have a preference of aliens over humans? No, I really don't. Okay, but I don't get quite so many questions about whether or not I've completely lost my nut. Okay, and I know exactly where my nut is, but I don't choose to go there. Fascinatingly enough for me, I've been to 3 professional psychiatrists that have all said the same thing. There's nothing wrong with the way my brain works. It just works on a different wavelength. Okay. I find this, this one, Robert's just made a comment here. Now I imagine a Karen alien going up asking for a manager. That could be fun. I like that. Poetically, no, Philip has asked, are aliens ever less confusing than humans? Honestly, not really. I remember dealing with a military group of Strazazians, the 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians. They had 2 of their ships that were caught in the pull of a black hole. Now, a black hole is nothing to write nice things home about. But they were quite prepared to let their people die. They were not going to go in and get them. Now, it just so happened I did have another Terran on board with me. And I just looked at the bunch of them and went, look, if you're too afraid to go and get them, I'm going after them. Now, on Earth, I'm very much a pacifist. Okay. I do not fight. I've only ever hit 3 people in anger that weren't related to me. Okay. But I refuse to fight. I just don't see the point to it. However, when I look at off-world or on the astral plane, which is essentially where I grew up, okay, I'm a whole different way of looking at things. But at least I don't have to explain to them why. Okay. But let's just see. We've got questions that are now starting to come in rather quickly. Okay. Okay, what is it here? Angel's Rife has asked, why are there small groups of ET ships being seen more? Technology or people more aware, or what? Well, part of it is technology is enabling people to see. Okay. And do understand, all technology is not gifted by the off-worlders. It really isn't. Humans come up with some phenomenal things. They absolutely look to nature and to the off-worlders as what they see as a way of identifying how to make something happen. But part of it is the technology enables it a little more easily. Part of it is the number of people that are coming out and talking about this as a viable thing. And they're going, okay, if you want to call me nuts, that's fine. But remember, lack of proof of existence does not prove non-existence. So can I tell you in my own heart that every one of the races that I've got in that first book and the second volume I'm working on, every one of them I've run into, I've dealt with personally firsthand. Can I prove it? No, I really can't. But I've had enough people that have verified things I've been talking about to go, let's not question it anymore, at least not for me. Okay, but I'm not here to prove whether or not what I've seen is real. I am here to help people understand that what you're going through may be of a different sort of energy. It may be something that's a little off kilter. Okay, many people suffer from missing time. Many people suffer from modification as to where they're going through. Okay. Poetically Mistaken has asked, which race are you familiar with that are the most spiritually advanced? Well, debatably, the Pleiadians probably are. Now, Pleiadians, the reason I say that is because they are healers. They do not question who you are. They don't question what your race is. They simply are interested in watching the evolution and participating in the evolution of personal, medical, and spiritual evolution, and healing. They don't differentiate between people. Okay, so they are one of the most spiritually advanced. Now, I'm going to have to look this up. I've got it right here in this book. I just have to scan for it here. Because the most technologically advanced is actually pretty easy. I think it's the Talons, but I know which ones they are. No, Xenons. My apologies. Okay, the Xenons are a robotic race. Okay, by human standard, they are a robotic race. Meaning, if you ever watch the old movie Batteries Not Included, you'll get an idea. Okay, but these guys, what they do is they will abduct people, but those people they never return because they pull them apart cell by cell to get an idea of how they work. Yeah, not a nice group of people from that end. But they, like mankind, takes a look at nature to get ideas. The Xenons, they are robotic. Props is asking, are they robotic or are they biological? They are pure mechanical, but they are living mechanical. Instead of being carbon based, they are based on metal. Okay, and various forms of it. The reality is there is metal that is available to them that is far denser and far harder to compensate for than any metal on Earth. Okay, and this neat little idea is, some of the science fiction movies that come out that they show mankind just beating back the aliens using modern technology isn't going to happen. Okay, just not going to happen, period. Okay. The answer there, props, has gone one. What metals? That'd be an interesting problem. Not being a metallurgist myself, I can tell you the heaviest metal I've personally heard of, and it's in the original periodic table with, I think, 105 elements. I was thrown out of chemistry in grade 8, so that's where my chemistry ended up coming to a grinding halt. The densest metal I personally have heard of from a Terran base is Lawrencium. Okay, now some of you may know what that is. Okay, I just know it's really heavy. But I will tell you that they've got metals that you're just not going to penetrate. They're not only are they molecularly more tightly knit, but they are reflective, laser ablative. They will not permit, in all fairness, if you don't have triphasic weapons, you're not going through them. Now, before somebody asks that, a triphasic weapon is something that is in the past, present, and future all at the same time. Sorry, that's tritemporal. Triphasic, they are liquid, gas, and solid all at the same time. Okay, powered by an energetic field, which means they can pass through anything without any problem there at all. Props, the answer is yes. Okay, he's asked, can you help me experience Astral? Okay, I just about went the wrong way there. I just about read that, Props, as that you desire to experience Astral or NDE, which is a near-death experience. And no, I'm not going to help anybody experience that. But the best way to help yourself get out of your physical body, meditation works. Many people have tried all sorts of different meditative techniques. Okay, the one that I found worked best for me is find when you are wide awake. Okay, do not do this when you're tired, because much as it works, what you'll do is pass out and get a really good night's sleep. But you literally pick a time when you're wide awake, get into a comfortable position, and rest assured, the lotus position that people talk about is insanely painful to me or to anybody with bad legs. Okay, but get into a comfortable position, and all you don't clear your mind. That's the biggest miscalculation. You simply focus on your heartbeat. Feel so that you can feel your heartbeat just by concentrating on it. You don't have to put your hand on your neck or on your arm. Just feel it here using your own head, your own mind. Okay. By doing that, you track that heartbeat until you can feel the pulse on the ends of your fingers and at the tips of your toes. As you reach further, you'll sink further into this meditative state at some point. And I cannot tell you, how long it'll take you to do it. But when it starts to happen, you'll feel kind of an odd pulling feeling. Okay, if you've ever had a dream where you're flying around with no form of aerial conveyance, no airplane, no hot air balloon, no kite, no nothing, and you feel like you're, if you will, pulling the Superman thing, that is astral travel. The problem is, as soon as you start to pull out, then you get this neat little flash, or most people do. They go, oh, I can't do that. That's scary. And you'll likely get pulled back in right away. Sooner or later, you'll break out of it. And then you can go where you will. Now, if you turn around once you're out of your body, you're likely to see an umbilical cord running from you back to your body. Don't panic, that's normal. It's usually silver in color. Okay, some people like myself never put one together. Of course, in all fairness, the first time I tried astral travel, I didn't desire to get back. Okay. Now, the gateway experience, I'm not entirely certain which gateway experience that you're referring to here, Props. Because quite frankly, I started off astral traveling from the incubator. By the way, don't do that. Okay, the first time I astral traveled, I got, the first time I astral traveled, I was in an incubator. I didn't want to be here, so I didn't bother tracking where my body was. Right, but what happened was I got out of my body and took off. I'm hooked up to all these monitors. And well, the alarms went off, and these doctors, I was about to say something really rude, but these doctors decided when I flatlined that electrocuting me to bring me back was a good idea. I can argue the point. Honestly, I don't know of any audio. The trick with audio, I can't give you a name. Find one that is not jarring. Many people call it elevator music. Okay. Anything that just helps slow your mind down, slow your pulse down, really. Because as you drop further into meditation, you will get slower. Now, for me, like I said, I can feel the pulse in the ends of my fingers. Frankly, I can feel the pulse in the ends of my hair. Now, we can safely say there's no blood in our hair, or the hairdressers would have an even bigger problem. Okay. So, I mean, for me, tracking energy is very simple. Okay. And somebody I am certain is going to be asking this sooner or later. Yes, there are spirits that walk around in this office with me. Quite a number of them, really, but then I invited them, and so I guess it's only fair. Okay. See, like I said, the reason I keep looking over this direction is that's where I've got what you're seeing coming up. Okay. Now, Philip, Philip has asked, can people astral travel and meet one another on the astral plane? The answer is definitively yes. But I will caution you, not everybody looks as they appear in real life. Some people will take on a different appearance. Kind of like taking on a different name when you go on the internet. There's a lot of speakers, there's even a lot of authors that go by a different name, by a pen name, if you will. Or they'll come up with an image that makes them feel a little bit more secure, a little bit more capable. In my case, you're likely to find me the same way I am here. I just don't bother hiding. I was asked by one person why I use my real name. Well, it's because I can't remember half the rest of the people's names, so why bother with changing mine? There's a lot of names I've been known by. Okay, over the centuries, and my memories go back way further than you might think. Okay, but can people meet on the astral plane? Certainly. Can you interact with other things on the physical plane? The answer is yes, though that takes a lot more energy and a whole lot more practice than most people have. And right now we are up to 15 people in the chat room, which is fantastic in my eyes. I was not, in all fairness, mind you, when I went on the air a couple of days ago just to get this working, I was honestly expecting that I was just going to spend half an hour on there just killing time and trying to figure things out. Right. But this may become a whole lot bigger than I'm planning on. Of course, I don't plan very far ahead. Now, I mentioned this issue. I talked about this already. Now, here's the thing. This book is full of information. It's full of, basically, it's an encyclopedia. It's a reference manual. Okay. But it's these ones, these novels here. Okay. These, some of the races that are in Races of the World. That, by the way, this is the Elder Bachian Chronicles I've talked about. Okay, and in this series, it'll be 12 in 12 in total. Right now, I've got 2 in print. But what I do with some of the races that you run into in Races of the Worlds, you'll find the social interaction, their personalities, described in the Ilderbaching Chronicles. Now, the question is, of course, did my imagination create the Races of the Worlds, or did the Races of the Worlds help with simply clarifying what I'm seeing? That's up to you to figure out. Oh, okay. Philip, the answer to your question. The what kind of spirits? Sorry, spirits come from every walk of life. And when I mean that, I mean you'll find spirits that come from, they come from humans, non-humans, people that have never been alive, animals, plants, elementals. The type will vary, but the best way to invite them is when you're going into that meditative state, thank spirits for identifying themselves. First and foremost, you thank spirits and you tell them you are welcome if you are of the light. Not from the light, not in the light, but of the light. You thank them for showing themselves to you in a way that you can both understand and accept. Okay, that's the best way to draw the positive and the positive energies to you. Now you got to remember the big caution here when you're getting into this whole astral travel thing of enhancing your own spiritual energy levels. It's kind of like sitting in a really black room and where nobody can touch anybody. You're sitting in a huge black auditorium, and then all of a sudden you're in there for hours, and it's really dark. Everybody's feeling rather disconnected, and then somebody turns the light on, just a little candle. That will immediately draw the people out of the dark towards you. Same thing happens as your spiritual light grows. Okay, you will be shining much more brightly, and you'll draw all kinds of energies. The thing is, if you focus on only permitting the ones that are of the light, and you literally tell them if they are not of the light, they are not welcome near you. Now, there are some people that will turn and say in Jesus' name, etc. Whatever works for you in that respect. Okay. And we could go down that rabbit hole, so I'm going to open the door. Okay. Do I believe in Jesus? Do I believe in God? You bet. Probably more than most people. Okay. Some people will turn to the power of Christ, to the power of God. Okay. To protect them from negative energies. Whatever helps you feel more secure, use that method. There is no right or wrong. But I will tell you, trying to pick a fight with a negative energy is not a wise idea. Okay. Have I had my fair share of shall we say, confusing interactions with different energies? The answer is absolutely yes. It's been an absolute interesting little mess. Okay. One of the biggest things that you have to remember is negative energies. For somebody to hold that kind of negativity, they usually have an anchor point somewhere where they've been in the physical plane. Okay, but there are 3 types of energetic beings. Okay, you've got the positive, you've got the negative, and you've got the neutral. Okay, and the neutral ones really don't care. Okay, they look at all interactions. Okay, am I willing to go down most rabbit holes? Pretty much. I remember one day, if any of you have studied demonology, you'll know of a chap by the name of Mephistopheles. Well, years ago, okay, there were 5 of us in the room, and we were just goofing off. We were just friends. We were in the middle of making lunch, and this guy come through the door, and I'll use the term guy a little loosely, but he come through the door, and I don't mean he opened it. I mean he phased right through it. And he literally looks at us and goes, "I am Mephistopheles. You will fear me." the four friends of mine, right, were all of a sudden up against the wall, just shaking, just turned white, which wouldn't have been so bad if one of them hadn't been black to start with. But I'm standing there, I'm trying to make a sandwich. I just looked over at the guy and I says, after lunch. So he repeats himself. He goes, I am Mephistopheles. You will fear me. I said, we covered that after lunch. I said, if you want to join us, pull up a chair. If not, would you mind leaving until after we're done lunch? And then I'll talk to you about whether or not I'm going to be afraid of you. My father actually told me point blank, the thing that worried him about me where it came to the metaphysical field was, he says, I understand the metaphysical field, but he said, I scared myself. What scares me about you is you've got no fear of the metaphysical world at all. Right? And in all fairness, I really don't. The first time I dealt with a Ouija board, okay, and I'm sure most of you have heard of a Ouija board, I turned around and, we're playing with it. And all of a sudden, this plastic planchard, the little pointer that you set on top of the Ouija board, all of a sudden shot off the table and buried itself in a concrete wall. Everybody else goes running out of the room screaming about whatever was going on. My immediate reaction was to go check out the planchard that was buried in the wall, okay, to try and figure out how it worked, how that occurred. Now, I can tell you how it occurred, but it's a little twisted. When you draw that kind of energy, you literally modify. You can modify the subquantum configuration, thereby making it easier to slip between the molecules in something solid. Okay, and yes, see, we look at things like this. Okay, my coffee cup, the reason it's solid is not because it's solid. It's because all of society has said, this coffee cup is solid. But the reality is, the molecules are moving slower than with liquids, but they're still moving. Okay, and once you figure that out, found a whole new world. Philip's gone, what did you find when you inspected the planchette in the wall? Well, first of all, getting it out, it had actually merged. It didn't punch a hole. It had merged with the wall. And that's where I started looking into the quantum magnetic flux and the subquantum impact of various energies. Okay, what it had done is it had slipped through the molecules between the molecules, and when it restabilized, it was part of the wall. Now, if I recall the experiment correctly, the Philadelphia experiment was playing around with the same idea. Net result, they black boxed the whole thing. They dumped all that information into a tight little box. The military wouldn't talk about it. And yeah, we are talking the U.S. military. By the way, they weren't the only ones working in that field. They were just the ones that it became very public very quickly and then denied. Okay. But what they did was they modified the biomagnetic field, and that result, the molecules of the people and the ship slipped together. Where they made the miscalculation was they took into consideration that it would all phase out, that it would cease to be there. They didn't take into consideration the ebb and flow of the water that the boat was sitting on. So of course, when they all shifted, the water come up, the people didn't move. They started to fall because, well, gravity kind of works that way. And then when it stabilized, they were merged. Now, this resulted in an absolute fiasco that they couldn't do anything with, which is why they blackboxed it. Okay, there's a lot of things that they end up dealing with. No, you are right, Robert. They didn't count for that. Because the temporal thing, the fact of the matter is, with the temporal shift, you cannot move backwards. However, past, present, and future do all exist at the same time. I know it's in Dulce. I don't know which event you're referring to. Yeah, it's Nightmare asking what happened in the Dulce base. See, I haven't looked into what's being broadcast. I do know Dulce has a staggering number of off-worlders living there, interacting there. They are not held captive. Okay, it's a cooperative effort of trying to actually work with. It's not exactly government. The government likes to go, we're in control of it. The reality is, if the off-worlders weren't interested in staying, they'd already be gone. Okay, but there is a whole lot going on there. The reason it's classified is this. Okay, mankind still has this brilliant idea. If you're a different color, that it's going to be a problem. Okay, if you're a different color, then there's something wrong. Well, picture what happens. People are worried about the different colors of different humans, different heights. Picture what would happen if we had an 8-foot reptilian. And here's the thing. Okay, remember I mentioned that these books all contain it? Well, here is the cover of the second book. This chap here. This is a Srazazian. Now take a look at that mace that he's got and look at the size of it compared to Jeremiah. Now, Jeremiah here, that's a human. Okay. Take a look at the size of that mace compared to Jeremiah. This is the kind of power you're talking about. Okay. And there's a lot of different races that I deal with. And many of them are covered in those books as well. So the reason they black box it is because humans get panicky about different colored people, about different sizes of people. Okay, it seems to be a question of, let's see, what the heck was it? I was going to say the Anunnaki, but no, they are not actually the tallest. What the heck are we dealing here? Talon, it should be. Nope, that's wrong. That's why I wrote this stuff down, is because I got way too much of it going in. We are looking at, there we are, the Archon. The Archon, the reason I say they are the tallest race, not technically, they're the size of a planet. Okay. When they start off, the Archon is what looks like a parasite. Okay. Until it grows up, at which point it becomes interstellar. And they are literally the size of a planet. So I think that'll qualify as the biggest. But the biggest corporeal form of a functional standpoint. Okay. From a functional standpoint, the Anunnaki run anywhere from 15 to 25 feet tall. Okay. Now, the Drakes are running in about the same size. They are reptilian. Okay. Props, the answer to your question, Props has asked, what's my first book and where can I get it from? Well, the first book is this one. This is The Birth of the Wolf Pack. It's the first book, in all fairness, as far as the saga goes. This book, The Birth of the Wolf Pack, is the 10th book in the series, but it's the first book in the final trilogy. Now, it can be acquired either directly through me, and if you look at the bottom of the videos, you'll see where and how much. Okay, it can also be ordered online through authorhouse.com, Amazon, Indigo, Chapters, and Barnes & Noble. Currently, it is being looked at to have it translated over in Europe into Spanish, Italian, and I believe German. Okay, but I haven't got any more information on that. Okay, but that's where you can get them. Now, in all fairness, that's not the first book I wrote. The first book I ever wrote, which had nothing to do with that, was this one, which is a children's book called Mr. Dreamcatcher. And it is literally the first one I wrote. Okay. What do we got? What do we do to see a creature like Ogopogo in Lake Chelan? You know, I believe that would be called luck of the draw. You really have to spend a lot of time watching for it, but go with first instinct. When you think you're seeing it, the odds are you are. Okay. The biggest mistake people make when they're the biggest mistake people make, Philip, when you're looking to see something like that, is trying to quantify it into something that you've seen before. Don't. Now, in all fairness, I do not know much about the creature in Lake Chelan. Hope I pronounced that right. Okay, I'm guessing in being a lake, it's probably something along the same lines. What most people are not aware of, including many of the scientists, is that many of these internal lakes are connected to the ocean. Okay, and yes, we get fresh water inside. And don't ask me how Mother Nature actually worked it out, but it's a transition between the open ocean and the inland seas, that and the inland bodies, that they managed to get the water purified, as it were, and draw the salt out of it. Okay. The nice little part about it, all of these things are visible. Okay, but you've got to trust your instincts. And since we're looking at that, you look at the Sasquatch as well, Bigfoot. You can, you listen to it, listen for it, you can watch for it. If you're going looking for it, don't go announcing you're going hunting. For some reason, most creatures, when they get wind that you're actually hunting for them, aren't really overly interested in being found. It's amazing that way. You tell somebody you're going to shoot them, they just don't like the idea for the most part. So, I mean, things are going to be an interesting setup, but all of these people, all these different entities have their own life. Now, they've got their own lifestyle. Now, the thing is, you take a look at these ancient dinosaurs, okay, that are still alive. Okay. When you take a look at these ancient animals that are still alive, my brother, he's passed away at this point. He made a calculation, figured out to have a stable society, a viable body, you would have to have 200 independent members of the same race in order to avoid interbreeding complications. Okay. And Spaced Out Radio has joined us. How's it going, Dave? Like I said, most people, I will not use somebody's name if they're here. Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio is directly responsible for my being able to get this sorted around. I still haven't figured out how to do all of it, but he has been an absolutely invaluable resource and a great friend. I mean, if you ever get the chance to meet him, there's somebody you should meet. Myself, I'm very much a recluse. So running into me out in public, not likely to happen anytime soon. Okay. Angel's Rife. There are multiple races in the Sierra Mountains, depending on where you go. Not all of them are off-worlders. You will find the Wara. Okay, well, you'll find the Sasquatch. Okay, Bigfoot, etc. You'll find the Wara, which is an off-world, much more aggressive version of the Sasquatch. They look very similar. You'll find many of the different races wandering around out there, including your ancient races, your Elfid, your Dwarvish, your Fairies. Okay, these are races that many people call mythological. Okay, they're not exactly mythological. They're just not seen very often. Okay. The nice little part of it, from my standpoint, I didn't actually, okay, what is it? Oh, Marty has said that studies have shown that 50 or less is on a road to extinction. Yeah, that was pretty much what my brother mentioned. And because what'll happen is they'll inbreed. Okay, and the minute you start doing that, and with that in mind, we're going to look at this other thing. Are the Greys a clone, a receding race because of cloning themselves and being multiple copies? Not even remotely. Well, remotely possibly, but functionally, they are not even remotely close to extinction. They have their own ways of reproducing. They are not just cloning themselves and therefore getting weaker. Okay, they are quite frankly expanding. They have looked into the hybridization program, but the reason they developed it was to grow or to raise cultural interpreters. So are there hybrids? Absolutely. Contrary to some people's belief, every hybrid does not know that they are a hybrid. Some do, but then if you look at humans, not every person that's adopted knows they're adopted. Okay, and I've heard some people state they absolutely do. Every hybrid knows they're a hybrid. And the answer to that is undeniably, from my standpoint, effectively, not even close. Okay. No, my older brother actually, like I said, he's passed away. But he was actually approached by Mensa 5 times. And he told them where they could go. Because he had no interest, as he put it, they were a bunch of stuffed shirts. Okay, he was, however, he was the one that introduced me to playing Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, I don't think he intended me to spend the next 40 years playing it. Well, no, correction. I'm just about 59 here. So he spent, I don't think he was planning on my playing it until present. I started when I was 13. Right. But he had a virtually eidetic memory. Okay, like I literally remember things that were bizarre with him. But he never answered me a straight question. If I ever asked him a question about anything, he would ask me a question in return. He never gave me a straight answer, which was a fantastic way to learn to analyze. Okay. Now, unfortunately, he passed away. We don't know what caused him to go because, well, he was overweight, diabetic, on a CPAP machine, and probably had a blood clot at the same time. Okay. Yeah. And Marty says his 2 sons are on a game every Sunday night. It's intense. They're in their 20s. I was reading the other day, there's a guy that listed off a whole bunch of landmarks. He's 79 now and about to start DMing his first game. Gamers range from 5-6 years old into their senior years. I'm one of the few, and this is the thing with the books that I'm writing. Okay, there's a lot of great science fiction writers out there that turn around and they write fantastic books, but to the best of my knowledge, I'm one of the few, if not the only one, and I don't know that for certain, that I am still actively gaming and actually writing the books with gamers in mind. The Ilderbockian Chronicles has buried in it literally a group of modern day gamers. Now, I don't game on the computer. Okay, I game on the tabletop, using physical dice, physical paper, and this sort of thing. Now, Angel's Wife goes, how did you or has your family handled you talking openly and publicly about all these subjects? Well, that's the easy part. Okay. My father apologized. He spent his entire life, my entire life, telling me I was completely off my nut. Okay. And, Mom backed him up on it until Dad's deathbed when he apologized and told me it was all real and that he never should have done that. My little brother considers me completely off kilter. He says, I don't think you're crazy, but the way you talk is. Okay. But like I mentioned earlier, lack of proof of existence is not proof of non-existence. Okay. So am I really close to my family? No. Okay. My kids had the fun part of trying to deal with me because on top of having this side of things, I've been an active psychic since I've been publicly psychic since I was 10. I hate the term. I build myself as a spiritual guide. primarily, I think, because psychic has such a bunch of negative connotation to it. Okay. So, my family doesn't handle it as well as they'd like, as well as it would be nice. They have pretty much ignored it. My own sister disowned me when we were very young. She became born again Christian. I became possessed. It was really kind of a strange transition. I didn't even have to leave the room for that one. I never left the house. She goes out, comes back, I'm possessed. I'm like, okay, how'd I do that? But from the reality, from the way that I'm dealing with things, I look at it this way. If I'm going to tell you I'm a spiritual guide, I've been through this sort of thing, there are so many people out there that have no idea what they're going through, no idea how to cope with it. The only thing that I can functionally do in my eyes is go, okay, I've walked through this road. I know the troubles that you may be going through. They will be different for everybody. They will be very much a personalized set of problems. I mean, how do you tell somebody, being dropped from the ceiling is normal? Okay. This is just something you get used to. And you do. But I will tell you, when they miss the bed, it's really painful. I remember one day they dropped me. They missed the bed just about altogether. I hit the floor so hard, I dislocated my bad knee. That was not fun, but it did tell my girlfriend at the time that when I talk about this sort of thing happening to me, it's real. Okay. Now, my eldest son has pretty much, we're still in good shape. We get along great, but he's off in his own little world doing his own little thing. My youngest one is still living with me, and he's still coming to terms with it. The whole, I'm just looking over, trying to make sure that I keep up with things. The reality of it is there is a lot of things that people go through that they have no clue how to cope with. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Philip goes, there's a lot of nice recluses in Mensa. They love puzzles and stuff. In all fairness, I somehow don't think, I've never been approached by them. I was diagnosed mentally retarded when I was just like 2 years old. My parents were told if he ever learns to tie his shoelaces, he's doing really well. Okay. And then 8 years later, they threw me into a course in theoretical genetics, which I don't understand. I mean, I understand theoretical genetics, but I don't understand why after diagnosing me the one way, they would throw me in there. It was fascinating and did give me a much better understanding of what is possible. Now, I don't think you might be able to see it. I've got a scar that runs about that long. Okay. Back in 2004, I snapped my arm so badly that they had to bolt it. They had to plate it back into position. When they did that, they told me I'd be 4.5 to 6 months healing because of the fact that it was broken the way it was. What they didn't count on was it took me 9 days to heal that broken bone. When my blood pressure was up at 180 over something, it took me, I think I was 10 days to drop it 40 points and get it back into balance. I mean, that's just the way my system works. It's no wonder the doctors have fun with it. But this is why I say anything is possible. Okay, I've got a subset of videos on that you might want to take a look at that I call language. I've identified 9 different words that are debilitating, that are self-debilitating in any language. Okay, I think I've only done a video on 4 of them. I've still got to get the rest of them done. Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things, and one of the biggest reasons I decided to finally go live was because I find quite often, and this is very much thanks to Dave. I can just imagine the fun he had when I first started showing up on the ET Connection, of the number of people that would give him flack, because there is no question my life is more like science fiction than anything else. Okay. But there's so many of you that go through similar things that you're lost. It's like, am I completely out of my mind? I hear voices, I hear tappings in the house, and I can't identify them. I remember one day I was talking to somebody, and they were actually asking me questions about what I was going through. And one of the biggest questions they asked that threw them for a loop, they asked me if I ever felt when I left the house like I was being followed. I went, yeah, absolutely, all the time. And she goes, where do you look if you're being followed? Where do you look? I said, well, I look to the rooftops behind me. I said, that's normal. And she goes, no, that is not normal. I said, what do you mean? I said, that's what I've always done. And she goes, people, when they feel like they're being stalked or like they're being followed, they look at eye level, right? She goes, there's only 1% of the people on average, about 1% of the people that will look to the rooftops. And she immediately goes, I have a sneaking suspicion you've been abducted. At that point, I'm like, by what? Right. By who? Because at that time, I didn't recall it. Right. So I asked who she was, and she mentioned that she happened to work with MUFON. Well, from there, it went down one heck of a rabbit hole. Okay. But it turns out, if you're feeling like you're being watched, okay, and that's where you're looking, you may have a situation going on. It's not 100% that's what happens. Okay. And the danger with my saying that is some of you, when you're feeling watched, you may start looking to the ceiling going, oh, I think I'm being abducted. That is seldom the case. Far more often do humans stalk each other. Okay. Many times just simply to see if they can. Okay. That's the one thing you got to realize. Okay. And there are a lot of different experiences people go through. When I talk about studying religion, I've actually got a copy of the King James Version, actually more than one copy. That was the one I grew up in. I've got a copy of the Jehovah's Witnesses Bible, okay, the Jewish Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. I've got an English translation of the Quran, okay, and there's a couple of others that I've taken a look at, including a copy of the Witch's Bible. When I talk about studying religion, I look at all of these same things. And what I found is they're all worshiping the same. They're all talking about the same thing. And yes, most of the off-worlders have some religious background where they worship somebody. And, they call it by a different name because obviously we're not talking about the same language. Okay. Yeah, that is wonderful. I wish I could draw. Like, I can write. Drawing is another problem. YJ's just saying she's painting a gargantuan white dragon right now. If you look, you can't really see it at this point. Okay, but up here I've got a number of dragons because I collect the things. Neat part is I've got a couple of live ones in the house here. Okay, and no, when I talk about live dragons, I'm not talking about the ones from D&D that are 200 feet long. They exist, by the way, but I'm not talking about those ones. I'm talking about smaller ones. Philip here is going, they thought I was stupid too. Later, they relabeled me Asperger's, autistic, gifted, and ADHD. It's never felt like a gift, to be honest. Does all that mean people like me are indigo? Not at all. Indigo children, okay, first of all, let's deal with the first part. One itty-bitty question for you. Philip, curiosity. Do you ever get anything finished under your own steam? Not do you get it done in a hurry, but do you get it finished, period? Okay, the reason I ask, and I don't need an answer here. I'm not going to drag you out into the middle of all of this. Okay, you need to ask yourself. I was actually tested for ADD and ADHD. Okay. And what they said, okay, because I get everything I'm doing finished. But like he says, there's no way if you get things done of your own accord, right, then he says, you're not ADHD. by what you're saying here, you probably are. There are coping mechanisms, and if you haven't followed it before, there, Philip, this here, and I don't expect you to read it because I'm not going to hold it that close. I keep a list here, okay, and I've talked about it on many of my videos. Where it comes to you personally, or anybody with ADD or ADHD, put a list, write the things down on a list. Keep the list, keep the tasks to 15 minutes to half an hour in length. That way you can, when you get done one, you can check it off and you'll know that you've got things accomplished. It's not a cure, it's a coping mechanism. Okay, that may help you sort things out. Okay, so I mean, that's one of the biggest issues. Now, as for indigo children know there is a calling for them. When I came into this world, I knew I had to help people. I also knew I didn't like people. I didn't trust them even then. As it turns out, I was reclusive when I was in elementary school. Okay, and I do actually have a book. I haven't put it in print yet. Well, that's not entirely true, but it's not available in the open market. I did one that I called a channeled autobiography. And it's the one book I will never correct the spelling in. Okay, because literally, it's a long story on how I came about it. Okay, but I literally ended up writing it not knowing what was in it. And when it came out, the only thing I changed in the entire book was I added the name A Channeled Autobiography. Everything else was written without my knowing anything about it. Okay, and yet I'm the one that wrote it. So, I mean, when I look at that, is it in existence? Yes. Have I turned it over to anybody? Have I turned it into an actual published issue? No. I haven't got copywritten or any of that side of it. But I do have it written, and it will never be corrected as far as spelling goes. It was suggested I put in that particular book, when I get to that point, it was suggested that I turn around and put an explanation in of this is why I am not correcting the spelling. Mom was really upset with me that I wouldn't. Okay, but the big thing that everybody out there, the message people really need to get is that working together, we can actually make this a better world. But the reality is it's going to take everybody's work. Okay, not doing things the way that I say, this is how you have to do them. The tools I offer are simply the ones that have worked for me. Okay. And I mean, ultimately, this is going to be a long, drawn-out process. It took me a long time to get to the point that I was going to come live. It took me a long time to get to the point where I actually when I actually even did the video. Okay, the video to get on, or to go onto the radio. So it's a slow process. For me, it's just one step at a time. But the reality is, everybody has a story. Everybody has something that brought them to where they are. The reality is, and this is why I don't hold it against people, is whatever you went through to get to where you are, it's what makes you who you are. It does not make you better or worse. Okay. I mean, I got asked the other day why I hold my hands that way. Well, that's because if you take a look at it, most people, like my left hand since my stroke, opens up. My right hand has been this way all my life. Okay, but this, if you take a look, if I do that, you watch how hard it is to try and get that to separate. Okay, it literally doesn't, which is why when I put my hands together, that's comfortable for me, because those fingers just don't separate. Now, why is a good question. Okay, do I have an answer? At this point, yes, I'm just not ready to go there. Remember that thing I mentioned about I will answer most questions, and if I'm not going to, I'll just come right out and say we're not going there. Okay. But I know there's a lot of people out there. I was talking to somebody, I forget who it was, but there was one individual that told me they had started writing a book, but somebody turned around, some professional turned around and told them it wasn't long enough to be a book. Well, I'll tell you, here's the funny thing. This little book here, okay, is only like 12 pages long. Okay, this one, I'm no artist, right? But all the artwork in it is done by me on a computer, of all things. Okay, it's only 11 pages. This one is 392 plus. 392 in the actual story. And then the beginning and end. Okay, so there is no length of what is right. Okay, it's just a question of whether it's a story you desire to tell and is it told your way. Now, that's the other thing about the Ogopogo Chronicles. Okay, I've already been asked by Author House whether I was looking at getting it and whether or not I was looking at turning that trilogy into a movie. Okay, and yes, I have been approached by Hollywood. They asked to tell my life story. Then they sent me a contract and told them what they could do with it. I was polite about it in this case. And the guy goes, but you don't understand the money you're turning down. I says, no, probably not. But the real problem is you don't understand how little I care about it. Now, have I figured out that money is a necessary thing? Okay, the answer is yes. It doesn't mean I care about it a whole lot, but I am going to build it. Now, one thing I didn't get to here, Philip, regarding this issue of being labeled Asperger's or autistic. In my opinion, autistic people or people suffering from Asperger's, I call it suffering because trying to fit in with the rest of the world is a royal pain. Okay, it's not an illness. You just think on a different level. Okay, I can relate to that problem all too well. Okay, the reality of it from that standpoint is that when you're dealing with the way you think, the thing that brought me peace of mind was when I quit trying to figure out how to fit in with the rest of the world and how to simply look in the mirror, look at me and go, you're fine the way you are. You can control how you behave, how you respond. You cannot control how other people behave or how they respond. Only how you respond to their responses. That's where you will find your peace of mind. Or more to the point, that's where I found mine. Okay, it was coming to that realization that enabled me to really sit back and go, okay, the one thing I thought that I did not honestly expect to attain this lifetime, that idea of peace of mind, I am absolutely amazed that I managed to find it. You know, when I was growing up, there were three things that I desired. Three life goals. Okay, the first one was I wanted off this mud ball. Well, I should have thought that through and told them I didn't want to be brought back. Of course, if they hadn't brought me back, I wouldn't be here now. Okay, so I managed to attain that one. I did not expect to ever be able to find peace of mind. Okay, but I will tell you, with somebody, for those of you that are out there that think that you're not going to find somebody that will accept you as is, understanding my life is more science fiction than anything else. Okay, I found somebody, or more to the point, they found me. Okay, and they accept me absolutely as I am. To this end, okay, we've been together now for a year and a half. I've never physically met her because, well, frankly, she's not in the area. Okay, but we are looking at getting married down the road. Okay, now the one variable there is I don't know for certain if she's going to say yes or not. Okay. That's the funny thing, Angel's Rife. When they sent me the contract, and in the first paragraph, they told me that they wanted to fictionalize it, modify it, alter it, and they wanted free reign to do that. And in the second paragraph, they told me that In the third one, they literally, and I've got the contract here, they literally told me that they were able to breach the contract. They weren't looking for my life story. They were looking for an idea for a movie. I told them flat out I would not sign it, and they could come up with their own movies. Okay. When I was talking to Author House, when they brought up the issue of the movie, the guy that brought it up to me, he goes, "You strike me as the kind of person that will not sell your rights." I said, "Not a prayer." I said, "I don't care whether or not it's going to go into production, because it's either going to be done the way the story is, or it's not going to be done. They can come up with their own ideas." Okay. And frankly, the way I've seen Hollywood, I can see why they're looking for new ideas. Okay. The answer to your question is kind of a funny one there. Philip has asked, how did they find you? Well, it was kind of comical, because I got pulled aside by who you would call God, and this is going to sound absolutely insane. Okay, absolutely insane. But who many people call God and Gaia pulled me aside, and God looks at me and goes, this is the job that you agreed to do. The job being to bring forth this message. Okay. To bring forth this message to people that working together, we can make this a better world. That was the message I was supposed to bring forth. And I says, yeah, absolutely. Right. And he goes, "But you're not doing that." I says, "No, you're right. I'm not." I says, "And here's the way this works." And because at the time I was already at the point where I was ready to shut everybody out of my life and just walk away from everything. I said, "Here's the way this works. Unless I get somebody in my life that is willing to accept me as is, okay, that I can look forward to waking up next to, unless I get that, I will take care of the 2 kids that I brought in that I was physically directly involved in bringing in. I will take care of them. But the rest of this job you can have back. I'm not doing it." And he goes, "But that's not what we expected." I said, "Probably not." And who I know as Itza, which you probably know as Gaia, she pipes up and goes, "But we were expecting you to pass on this message." I says, "Undoubtedly." But I says, "Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you," talking to God, I said, "did you not tell us you gave us free will, freedom of choice, irrevocable even by you?" God looks at me and goes, "Well, yes." I said, "Well, you should have thought that through." I said, I'm wholeheartedly agreeing that, God doesn't make mistakes, but you really should have thought that through, because here's what you did. You want that message passed on. I got no problem. I will do what I can with it. When I have somebody in my life that will accept me, as is, complete with all the hiccups. Okay, not the least of which is my tendency of dropping dead without warning and then getting up and carrying on. Okay, well, 3 days later, this young lass was brought into my life. Okay, and she's the one that brought up the idea of making things into a permanent setup with us. From that point, it took me a few months to get used to the idea that, yeah, she really was here. Net result, I finally opened the door and started doing the recording of the journey. And now, here I am, a year and a little bit later. Okay, just over 13 months later. Here I am live. Here I am ready to tangle with the religious factions, with the political people. And I'm not going into politics here. Don't get me wrong. When I said in the outline, I'm not dealing with Terran politics, I won't, because my views are very different and I just don't feel like trying to explain it. Okay, to individuals, it's possible. But what I find is I run into too many complications, and it's too much of a hotbed of things of you don't know what you're talking about. My one shrink asked me point blank. He goes, why didn't you ever go after your psychology degree? I looked at him and I said, well, no offense intended here, but doctor, I don't need a sheet of paper on the wall for people to tell me I know nothing about what I'm talking about. I get that all the time. Right. So, I mean, when this young lass came into my life, I started pushing the doors open of going, okay, here's where people are running into problems. And the reality is, it's not just the people of this planet. The off-worlders, the ancient races, all have the same problem. Okay. And much of what I remember, okay, it was funny when I first wrote the storyline to this. When I first wrote this storyline, and if you ever buy the book, in the first appendix, I think it's the first one, the original story that I wrote, which I wrote the outline back in grade 10, the original story tells them the whole thing. Okay. Now, by the way, the biggest difference between ordering online and ordering directly through me, and it's certainly more expensive to get it through me, but then we've got shipping to deal with. The big difference is ordered directly through me. I do sign it, and the pictures inside are color. Okay. There's also this little factor. Okay, if it's ordered directly through me, when you take a look at the back, okay, at the back of the two books, go that way. When you put them together, okay, can't see that. When you put them together, the pictures match up. Okay. Now those are the ones that I print myself. I've got a local printer that does it. Then we've got the one that is gotten through Amazon. Speaking of which, I got to talk to them. You'll notice that there is a big black border. Okay, that's the way they have to do it. But it's available there as well. And of course, I can't quite reach that way because it's falling over. But I mean, so when people talk to me about how we can ever deal with things, okay, whatever project you're on, this little idea of writing the goals down in small form, breaking the goals down. And you always start the brainchild of anybody's home, whether it's a home, a business, a starship, it doesn't matter. It all operates the same way. The brainchild is the office where you handle the operating systems. Okay. And the less clutter, and this comes from somebody that was a professional pack rat, the less clutter, the clearer your mind is going to be. Okay. Many of the issues that you look at, many of the things that happen, okay, I take a look at it and go, like, when I'm writing, this is the two areas where I can directly guide people, because these are the paths that I went down. Where it comes to taking my finances and turning them around so they can actually move forward, I've already gone the route of living on the edge of being quite literally of being told you got one paycheck ahead of being on the street. I got guided into bankruptcy by professionals twice, both of which times were absolutely stupid. It benefited them, did nothing for me. I've come through that. I am now debt free, and I can show you exactly how to do that. And during these live these live recordings, the live streams, I will cover some of that. Okay. So I do know how the finances work now. I am not an investment advisor. I show people how to work with what you've got. Okay. The metaphysical or the feeling in your home, the way to find your own self-esteem, that is something. I've fought self-esteem issues my entire life. Okay. And of course, when it comes to writing, well, let's see. I've got 2 books on Amazon, right? 2 books on Author House there, and soon to be global. Actually, in all fairness, they might be global already. But I've got 4 other books already in print in my possession. Okay. So when we're talking about writing, I write in most genres. I don't write suspense. I don't think. I certainly don't write horror stories, and I don't write adult. Everything else I write. So where it comes to, correction. See, I do have some songs written, but I have no idea how to write the music for it. Okay. But that's a field I wouldn't mind sorting out because I've got some that are written, but I've got to find somebody that can actually, number one, understand how to listen to. I can give the rhythm, but that's it. There is no way I know how to write it. But I can tell you the steps to take to clear out the clutter in your house, assuming you desire it. I've shown hundreds of people how to quit smoking, how to quit drugs, how to quit, how to quit drinking without having to suffer from the side effects from withdrawals. Now, the reality is I never started smoking cigarettes, but I've helped so many people and gotten so much positive feedback on the fact that the method worked. And this is one of the things I will be covering, because the reality is we cannot turn this world around if we do not realize it is all literally connected. Okay. I mean, this is a very big task. And where are we here? Okay, we are down to, I'm surprised. I actually didn't take a break. But like I said, I'm not necessarily planning on one. So right now, the reality is I will be on I've already set it up. On Sundays, I will be running from here on out from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. Okay, I will be going live. And in deference to the people on the other side of the planet, on Saturday morning from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., I will also be going live. But those are the only two times that I know I can pin down the time and say, I'll be here. Okay. I'm hoping, I would really love to get to the point, and I never thought I'd be saying this. I would love to get to the point where I have even a functional fraction of what some of these gamers have. Where you've got hundreds of thousands of people paying attention. I watch what people call Bible thumpers. Now, I am not, do I believe in God? Certainly. Am I going to tell you, you have to call in this and you have to do this, this, and this to follow? Or you've got to give X number of dollars? Absolutely not. Okay, I will tell you that number one, God doesn't need worshipers. He did fine before man got here. Kind of egocentric on the human's part, and many of the other races, by the way, that they figure that God needs, that their God requires worshipers. Humans need worshipers. You got to remember, God's create things because, well, they can. So they do. Okay. And one of the biggest projects I've got on the go, I've already got the superstructure laid out. Now, understand, I still have very little money of my own. And I'm not going to go looking around. I will never open the door as a corporation because of one little detail. Corporations, from my research, have the board of directors has the capacity to throw the person that built it out. I will certainly connect with people and take on a board of advisors, but never will I turn over control. Maybe I'm too much of a control freak. I don't know. But the project I am working on, and I've already laid out the superstructure for it, is an actual healing center. Now, I don't have three nickels to plug together, so to speak. I actually do, but it's going to take a lot of money, and whether I manage to do it or not, I don't know. This may just be the opening door. I have no way of telling you. Okay. And there's no way I can functionally go, this is what I'm looking at. I can tell you I've got a very definitive goal in mind. For me, it's simple. Get this message out. Let people know that, yeah, you may have some real challenging situations. You may have some real big complications. If it's Monday on your side, Robert, I take it you've got to be down in Australia somewhere. Robert just goes, he says, it's Monday on this side. But the reality is that when you open a corporation, yeah, there are some tax benefits. I'm not interested in them. Okay. I mean, do I want to keep my own money? Yeah, but the government's been keeping most of mine anyway. I found out, and this one I'm very, very blunt about. I've got my income tax being gone through. Now, you'll love this one. If you think you're having a nightmare with your own income tax, wherever you are, I filed it always in the last 40 years. I filed every year through an actual income tax, a company, a legal company that was trained to deal with income tax. I only just this year, they're going back over it because we found some discrepancies. Just this year, going back only 10 years, turns out that 3 different companies actually denied me. They did not report in excess of $125,000 in deductions. Now, whether I get anything back, I have no idea. Okay, according to the accountant that found it, quite possibly. Okay. But this is why I say I do know exactly what I'm aiming at. Do I realize at almost 59 years old, I've got to get my tail in gear and start doing something to generate a retirement fund? So, do I know money is necessary? Absolutely. And like I've told people, there are 3 things you got to remember. Yes, credit cards are a deadly commodity if you don't know how to handle them right. But the 2 most important debts that anybody has, bills, are your mortgage or your rent. And don't kid yourself. If you own a house and you're still paying a mortgage, you're renting from the bank. If you paid the house off, you're paying land taxes, you're renting from the government. So you've got to cover your rent and your power. Everything else you can work around. Okay. This is why I say I'm not a financial advisor. I will not tell you who to invest in or what to invest in. I myself believe wholeheartedly in helping people when I can. Right. So, with that in mind, I still will be doing the videos. I will still be recording the journey on a daily basis. Okay. And I've got a couple of other venues, or not venues, but topics I'll be dealing with. But this was just the opening door to get things moving on the live feeds. And in answer to your question, like I've been asked, am I ever going to go to the different conferences and talk? And the answer is, yeah, I absolutely will. Okay, when travel is safe again. Right now, I don't know what's going on. I know that the governments are still playing stupid moves, but that's my personal opinion. Okay, will I go to conferences and what have you when the opportunity presents itself? And when I'm invited, the answer is yes. I don't travel well, so I make certain that I've got backups, as it were. As far as speaking on other radio shows goes, I have no problem. We just have to work around my schedule. And the 2 critical factors, right? There's 2 things that dictate whether or not I will go on a show. Okay. One, it's got to fit in where my own work, my own actual employment is. That gets first, and that gets dominant recording, dominant time. Second to that is spaced out radio. I won't take on a interview during the time that my show that I'm on spaced out radio, which is the first Friday of every month. Okay, I won't interfere with that time for anything except, well, there's 2 things that'll do it. My own employment, or if, like I did the one day and decided a stroke was a really good idea, miss that show altogether for a little while. Something to do with I couldn't speak at all. But am I open to coming on to other people's radio shows to talk about pretty much anything? Yeah. But understand, I do not research. I talk about things I personally have gone through. Well, there you go. Something just for you, Philip. Actually, for anybody in the Kelowna area, I do meet people for coffee. Okay, I will absolutely meet people face to face. I've done that for clients of mine from back east. I had one guy actually fly me out to his place to meet him. So, do I meet people face to face? The answer is absolutely certain. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Robert's right. I should have mentioned that. I can be in the middle of work And if my son runs into a problem, if either one of my sons run into a problem, I will drop what I'm doing and go and deal with them. I'll tell people in the middle of a psychic reading, when I'm working with tarot cards or what have you, if that phone rings and it's one of my kids, I will put the reading on hold and I will deal with my kids. And that's just the way it works. Fortunately, my son, the one son that still lives with me, is very good at letting me do what I have to. Now, we are down to the last couple of minutes here. And I really want to say thank you to the lot of you for joining me today. I'm actually really pleased with the number of people that showed up. And I'm certain things will get more involved as we go along. I actually found out about a month ago that my YouTube channel, it still only got like 238 people on it, I think. Right. I think it's only got 238 subscribers. But my YouTube and my videos have had in excess of 10,000 views, which I'm sitting there going, I'm really not that interesting. Okay. I'm really not that interesting of an individual, at least not in my eyes. Quite frankly, you guys all have your own stories, and you all have to realize that spiritually speaking, every one of you is as important as the next. Okay, every single one of you. Okay, money does not make somebody better. A new position. I love the people that go, oh, look at the car I've got. It's a brand new car and it's so shiny. I'm thinking, and how far in debt are you? My car, it runs. When you think about vehicles, you're looking at about 16 square inches of rubber. Other than that, every vehicle is the same. Okay. Except some people pay more for a car than I'll pay to live. I mean, it's just absolutely insane in a lot of ways in my eyes. But then I'm not materialistic. Now, guys, I would love to say once again, thanks so much. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Okay. And the thumbs up is really appreciated because apparently it does something about the algorithm where it comes to bringing the videos up. But I will be back again. Like I said, you may find me on and going live at like 3 o'clock in the morning sometime because I just wake up and that's what I decide to do. But as far as scheduling goes, on next Saturday, I'll be on at 9 o'clock a.m. PST, which will put it about 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the other side of the planet. Okay. I'll be running from 9 to 11. And then again, I'll be here again next Sunday from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. But thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. I love the questions that came in. Okay. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And for pity's sakes, stay positive.